The young man smiled when the clerk read the injury claim. Not a nervous smile, not an embarrassed smile. A small, polished, expensive smile, the kind a 19-year-old learns when every adult in his life has taught him that trouble is temporary. Across the aisle, 74-year-old Walter Hayes sat with both hands wrapped around the handle of his cane. He had worn his brown Sunday jacket even though it was Tuesday. His left shoe had been fitted with a brace after the accident. When he stood slowly. When he sat as if every bone had to ask permission. Judge Judy looked down at the file. "Mr. Hayes is claiming $18,740, she said, for medical bills, property damage, transportation expenses, and loss of wages from part-time work." The young man, Carter Bell, turned his head just enough for the cameras to catch the smile again. "My lawyer will fix this tomorrow," he said. The courtroom went still. Judge Judy did not answer right away. She looked over the top of her glasses, not at the lawyer standing behind him, not at the father seated in the gallery in a dark suit, but directly at Carter. And the air in that room changed before she said a word. Carter Bell was the son of a state senator, not a senator anyone in that courtroom was going to name too often, just powerful enough for people in his town to lower their voices when the family came up. Carter wore a navy blazer, no tie, and loafers with no socks. He kept one hand in his pocket until the bailiff told him to remove it. He called Judge Judy ma'am only after she made him repeat his answer. Walter Hayes had come with a paper folder held together by a rubber band. Inside it were hospital discharge papers, a photograph of a bent aluminum cane, a bill from the orthopedic clinic, receipts from rides to physical therapy, and a letter from the community center director saying that Walter could no longer work the front desk on Saturday mornings. It was not a glamorous job. It paid little, but it gave him a place to be, a chair by the door, and people who called him Mr. Hayes. That was what Carter's car had taken first. Not money, routine. The accident happened outside the Westbrook Community Center after a veterans' breakfast. Walter had walked down the front steps with two other older men. He had stopped at the curb. He had looked left. He had looked right. The crosswalk sign was blinking white. Then the silver car came through the turn lane. Witnesses said Carter was looking down. Carter said Walter stepped out too slowly. The police report used careful language. It said the driver failed to yield. It said the pedestrian sustained injuries. It said no alcohol was detected. It said the driver was cooperative. Walter remembered the sound more than the pain. Tires, a horn, a woman screaming his name, his cane sliding across pavement. Then the young man standing over him, not asking whether he was alive, but saying, "Sir, you shouldn't have been there." In Judge Judy's courtroom, Carter did not deny hitting him. He denied responsibility for what came after. He said insurance was complicated. He said his father's office had been handling it. He said Walter's bills looked inflated. He said old people fell all the time. He said he was being used because of his last name. Each sentence made the room quieter. Walter sat there and listened. He did not interrupt. He did not point. He did not cry. He had spent 38 years delivering mail in rain and heat, stepping around dogs, salting icy walkways for strangers, putting Christmas cards exactly where they belonged. A man like that did not come to court looking for pity. He came because his hip hurt every morning, and the boy who caused it had never once said he was sorry. Judge Judy turned one page, then another. "Mr. Bell," she said, "your father is not a party to this case." Carter nodded, still smiling. "My attorney advised me not to discuss certain things." "Your attorney may advise you," she said. "He may not testify for you." Carter's smile thinned. The lawyer behind him shifted, as if he had heard a door close somewhere. The first witness was a woman named Mrs. Lillian Porter, 71 years old, who had been leaving the breakfast with Walter that morning. She wore a gray coat and held her purse in her lap with both hands, but her voice did not shake. She said Walter had the right of way. She said Carter's car was moving too fast for the turn. She said she saw the young man look down at something near the center console. Carter whispered to his attorney. Judge Judy stopped him with one finger in the air. "This is not a hallway," she said. "You will not whisper your way around the truth in my courtroom." The audience barely breathed. Then came the second escalation. Judge Judy asked Carter whether he had contacted Walter after the accident. Carter said no, because it was being handled professionally. She asked whether anyone from his family had contacted Walter. Carter said his father's office may have. She asked what that meant. He shrugged. The shrug was small. It lasted less than a second, but it landed in the courtroom like a slap. Walter looked down at his cane. Judge Judy saw it. "Mr. Hayes," she said, softer now, "did someone from that office contact you?" Walter opened his folder and pulled out an envelope. The paper inside had been folded and unfolded many times. It was a letter from a legal assistant connected to the senator's campaign committee. It offered to assist with miscellaneous expenses if Walter signed a release confirming that the accident had been an unfortunate misunderstanding. Judge Judy read the phrase twice, an unfortunate misunderstanding. Then she looked at Carter. "That is what your family called a 74-year-old man being hit by your car?" Carter said. That was legal language. "No," Judge Judy said. "That was human language dressed up so it would not have to feel ashamed." The lawyer finally stood. "Your Honor, with respect, my client has not been charged criminally in this proceeding." Judge Judy's eyes moved slowly toward him. "Counselor, sit down unless I ask you to stand. You will have your turn if I need a lesson in avoiding responsibility." He sat. Carter's smile started to fail. But arrogance rarely stops when it is warned. It mistakes the warning for a challenge. Carter said Walter had exaggerated the injury. He said the video did not show the exact point of impact clearly. He said the community center people were biased because his father had opposed funding for their building. He said a man of Walter's age should not be crossing busy streets without help. A woman in the audience gasped. Walter's jaw tightened. Judge Judy leaned back and let Carter talk. That was the mistake. People who think power protects them often confuse silence with permission. They hear no objection and assume they are winning. Carter continued. He said he had places to be that morning. He said the traffic pattern was confusing. He said he had only looked at his phone for a second because his father's driver was texting him about the event schedule. Then he stopped. It was the first time he realized he had said too much. Judge Judy's pen stopped moving. "Say that again," she said. Carter blinked. "I said the traffic pattern was confusing." "No," after that. "My father's driver was texting me. While you were driving." Carter looked at his lawyer. Judge Judy snapped the file closed. "Don't look at him. He was not behind the wheel." The words seemed to travel through the room before they landed. Carter tried to correct himself. He said he meant after the turn. He said maybe it was before. He said he did not remember exactly. He said everyone was making too much out of a brief glance. Judge Judy reached for the police report again. There, attached to the back, was a supplemental note Carter had signed the day after the accident. He had written that he may have been momentarily distracted by a phone notification. His father's attorney had faxed a different statement 3 days later, removing that line. Judge Judy held the 2 pages side by side. One page had Carter's own words. The other had the cleaned-up version. That was when the case stopped being about a car accident and became about something older, uglier, and more familiar. A young man had hurt an old man. Then the adults around the young man had tried to turn the hurt into paperwork. Power does not erase what happened. It only shows who expects not to answer for it. Judge Judy said nothing for almost a full minute. Walter kept both hands on his cane. Carter kept looking at the lawyer. The lawyer kept looking at the floor. And somewhere in that silence, the whole courtroom understood that Judge Judy had found the question that mattered. Judge Judy removed her glasses and placed them on the bench. She looked first at Walter Hayes. She looked at the brace around his shoe, the folder in his lap, the hands that had delivered other people's letters for nearly 40 years. Then she looked at Carter Bell, 19 years old, polished and pale, suddenly smaller than the blazer he was wearing. "Mr. Bell," she said, "was your lawyer driving the car?" Carter did not answer. "Answer me." "No." "Was your father driving the car?" "No." "Was the campaign committee driving the car?" "No, ma'am." The room was silent. Judge Judy leaned forward. Then stop telling this courtroom who is going to fix it. Your lawyer will not be punished. Your father will not stand here in your place. You hurt this man. You laughed about paperwork. And today, you are the one who answers. Carter's mouth opened, but no sentence came out. Judge Judy turned to the attorney. Your client admitted distraction in his first written statement. The later version removed the admission. I am not interested in the later version. I am interested in the truth before somebody polished it. The lawyer said nothing. She turned back to Carter. I have listened to you blame the road, the age of the plaintiff, the timing of the light, the language of the letter, the people at the community center, and finally, your own lawyer. What I have not heard is one simple sentence that a decent person says before the paperwork starts. Carter swallowed. I'm sorry, he said. No, Judge Judy said. Not because I caught you. Walter did not move. His eyes stayed on the floor. Judge Judy continued, and her voice became lower. You are 19. That is old enough to drive a powerful car. It is old enough to injure a man. It is old enough to tell the truth. And it is old enough to learn that influence is not a substitute for character. She awarded Walter Hayes the full documented amount, $18,740. She ordered reimbursement for medical bills, transportation costs, the damaged cane, and lost part-time income. She noted on the record the inconsistent written statements and the attempt to secure a release through political language. She directed that the transcript be forwarded to the appropriate office handling the related traffic matter. Then she looked at Carter one final time. And if you smile again, she said, I will remember that too. Nobody laughed. Carter did not smile. His father, seated in the back row, had been stone-faced through most of the hearing. At the ruling, he lowered his head, just enough for everyone to see that for once, the Bell family name had not filled the room. The truth had. Walter Hayes stood when the bailiff helped him. It took a little time. Judge Judy waited. She did not rush him. He gathered his folder. He placed the rubber band back around the papers with care, as if neatness was one of the few things the accident had not taken from him. Before he stepped away, Judge Judy spoke again. Mr. Hayes. He looked up. You should never have had to come here to be treated like a person. Walter nodded once, his lips pressed together. For the first time that day, his face changed. It was not happiness exactly. It was relief. The kind that comes when someone finally says the obvious thing out loud after everyone else has avoided it. Outside the courtroom, Carter's lawyer moved quickly. His father moved quicker. Reporters would hear careful statements by evening. There would be phrases about respect for the process and concern for all parties. There would be no mention of the smile, but the people in that room would remember the smile. They would remember the cane. They would remember the way an old man sat quietly while a young man tried to outsource his conscience. And they would remember Judge Judy's question, was your lawyer driving the car? It was not a complicated question. That was why it worked. The truth is often simple. Walter Hayes did not leave that courtroom younger. His hips still hurt. His Saturday chair at the community center was still empty. A ruling could not give him back the morning before the impact, or the months of sleep broken by pain. But it gave him something real. It gave him his dignity in front of the person who tried to take it. Carter Bell walked out without the smile he brought in. For the first time in his life, maybe, he had learned that a family name could open doors, but it could not close a judge's eyes. Power does not erase what happened. It only shows who expects not to answer for it. That day, Judge Judy made sure the answer came from the only person who had been behind the wheel. And if you believe in courtroom moments where the truth finally stands taller than power, subscribe for more stories where Judge Judy made things right.